Hey everybody, Rule the Lines UK, Matt and Ant here, along with guest Gary. We're just chatting for a few moments before we get started. Gary, how are you doing? Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks.
Great, and we can see you now as well, which is good.
Excellent.
How are you doing, Ant?
Yeah, I'm doing good, cheers.
I just listened to your college football stuff from yesterday. It sounded like a mad week.
Yeah, um, I don't know really what to make of it this year. There's not that many good teams knocking around at the moment. Everybody looks vulnerable, but it's good fun. It's a lot of change going on. A
Mm.
lot of but yeah, it's good fun. It's a really good week. So non-con's usually quite boring, but they've been quite exciting this year. So cannot complain.
I really think that MSU quarterback's going to be a first rounder when he gets there.
I mean, come on, he's started two games. Let's
I think
let's
he looks really good.
and he threw three picks.
I thought
So
he looked really good. Hey, he's a college quarterback. If he can throw three picks in his second start, it's okay.
you can. You
Mm.
just need time with him. But
Mm.
they look better already. So Michigan's a more healthier state when both teams are doing well, or when both teams are good. So it's good to see them doing well.
Mm. Everyone in the chat, hope you're all well. If you've got questions for Gary as we go through, please get them in. I'll try and take track of them as you put them in, and then I'll find a good time in the preview to pop your question to him. Gary, are you going with Oh, why can't I remember his name now? Who we were talking to initially? Oh my God,
Graham.
Graham.
Right.
Thank you. Are you going to for the 40th anniversary celebrations next week?
Oh, you bet your life I'm going. Yes, I wouldn't miss that.
Mm.
There's actually about, at the last count, 120 or so going.
Wow.
It's going to be a heck of a weekend.
Yeah, I bet it is. I knew that there'd be a lot going, but that's a mad turnout. I'm not sure that we've got that many fans ourselves. Never
I
mind
think we
people
probably
going.
have.
That's fantastic.
Mm.
What's the plan? When are you heading out?
The bulk of us are going out on Thursday next week.
Mm.
There's, I think, somewhere around about 50 or 60 on the same flight out of Gatwick, so that's going to be fairly riotous, knowing some of the people in the club. And then we've got events going on Friday. One of the lads is doing a, believe it or not, in Florida Heat, a 40-mile charity run.
Oh my God.
So we've all contributed and raised quite a bit of money for the Mike Evans Foundation. Nothing on Saturday, but we're all piling to Raymond James for USF versus Miami. And then we'll be all watching the Bucs beat the Broncos on the Sunday. And then we got a couple of things, tours and events going on. There's an event on the Friday night that Mike Allstott is coming to. Mike Allstott, of course, famously number 40. So only right that he should come to the 40th anniversary. Knees up, I suppose, is the way we would describe it. But it's
Mm,
going to be a riotous weekend.
I bet. Sounds great. I'm quite jealous.
Well, you can always switch to the Buccaneers if you wish. We'll
Not
let you in.
just for one day. I could change just one day for a piss up for sure. Mm. Some nice chats in the live chat there. The chap has a Bucks fan banner. Yes, he does. Well observed, Parryman. Giovanni Lyons wants to know what you're drinking, and
I've told him.
oh, hazy pale ale. Nice. I
Oh,
know.
Mm.
nice.
Vocation's a very nice brewery up here, so yeah, I drink their beers a lot. They've got a bar in Sheffield which I frequent pretty much every time I go. So, what else? It's a nice little can with the eye on it. They're
Mm.
one of those who do such nice artwork for all their beers and stuff like that. So,
All right. So I'll just have a bit of starters, housekeeping stuff, and then there's a couple of bits of Lions news, but it's really short. And then it's an entire Bucks preview, so go through the entire roster pretty much. Injuries, a little bit of a look back to last year because we're only one game in. Draftees, free agency, and then how things looked last week against Washington. and then about the matchup specifically. So I don't know if you have an out at all, Gary, where you have to pop off. No?
No,
All right.
no, fine, whenever you want.
Cool. And then me and Ant at the end, last week we did against the spread picks, although I have to admit, Ant, I haven't gone back and actually listened to how well we did.
No, I haven't either.
I don't think we did very well.
I'm pretty sure it was what I bet my pick watch stuff on. We went 11-6, 11-5. Sorry. So
What, against the spread?
well, no, I didn't do against this. We didn't do against the spread. I just did the overall pick watch. I was 11-5.
Okay.
So like I did all right in that. I don't know against the spread, but I think so.
All right, I haven't done my.
We covered. Just.
I haven't done my picks for this week yet. What's the game tonight? Bills Dolphins. All right, cool. Let's get on with this, shall we?
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Alliance UK podcast, episode 289, Playoff Rematch Gauntlet Part 2. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick, along with special guest Gary Botley from the Bucs UK. How are you doing, guys?
Fine, thanks.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Cheers.
Good. Gary, I think this is the second time we've had you on, but just before we get into all of this, just tell us a little bit about you and the Bucs UK, because I know there's a very special anniversary coming up that you're celebrating next week.
We are indeed, yes. The Bucs UK is 40 years old this year. We believe we're the oldest UK-based fan club. Because it's the 40th anniversary, there's an awful lot of us going over to Tampa next week for what is going to be hopefully a fairly riotous weekend. We're all going to the Broncos game. Quite a few other events that the Buccaneers are laying on for us. So it's going to be a fantastic weekend.
Sounds excellent. I hope one day that we can cultivate as Lions fans a similar relationship to you have with the team, because it's something to aim for the entire country, to be honest, in the way that they have supported you. And likewise, 40 years is a damn long time, and more than 100 plus people going is exceptional. So
yeah, it really is. And you make a really good point about the relationship we have with the Buccaneers, and particularly with the Chief Operating Officer, Brian Ford. He's not now just the Chief Operating Officer of the Bucs. He's a friend, and he is a fantastic human being. He does an awful lot for us. Basically, whatever we want, we get. And he's organised a lot of the things that we're going to be doing next weekend over in Tampa.
Fantastic. All right, we are going to be previewing the Bucs game, of course, but first, just a bit of housekeeping. Our Discord channel is a great place to be all weekend long. So I've put the link in the live chat right now. Please come and join us if you're listening right now. It's a lovely community of Lions fans, and maybe one day it can be quite as good as the Bucs UK fan group too. College Football Podcast, Ant, was last night. What did he talk about?
So we just recapped the fixtures from week 2, and then we took a look ahead to week 3. That's kind of what we're doing now, just checking all the games. But loads of good games, especially in these non-cons, which are usually boring, some really big upsets and whatnot. So go check that out. We went through quite a few games in this one. So yeah, just reviews, previews at the moment, and then next week we're looking at wide receivers. So yeah, lots to look forward to.
Yeah, it was especially funny to listen about the Notre Dame loss to Northern Iowa. Not Northern Iowa, Northern Illinois.
No.
It was NIU one way or the other. Yeah, just hilarious. But there we go. Sorry, thought you were going to say something then.
I was about to say Northern Iowa is UNI, so just, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
I pick you up on that.
Fair. Please don't forget to like the show, sub to the podcast, all that good stuff. You know what to do. And help our friends out at Lions Nation Unite. That's Herman Moore's project to bring the best in Lions content creators together, which of course Ant is a big part of. So we'd appreciate your help with that. And we're Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized, and there's a tip jar in the description on YouTube if you want to help us out. If you like what you're listening to, then please don't hesitate. Right, a little bit of news to start off with. Briefly going through signings and waivers. So Chris Smith, the defensive tackle, was signed to the active roster last week. He was waived and re-signed to the practice squad when he cleared waivers. We've also added to the practice squad the kicker Greg Joseph. There was a free spot there because we signed the nose tackle Kyle Pico to the active roster. Of course, he was elevated last week and has been taking starter reps all pre-season long. His salary has not been guaranteed because he was not active in week 1 on the main roster. That seems to be why they've done that. And of course, Greg Joseph spent all off-season with the Packers, which is an interesting wrinkle for us. Final bit of news. Very sadly, in the last few minutes, it has been revealed that former Lions linebacker and head coach Joe Schmidt has passed away at the age of 92. He was a 2-time NFL champion with the Lions, a Hall of Famer, an 8-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, and he also coached the Lions to a 43, 34, and 7 record. And I think he was in our top 3 Lions of all time that we did in this off-season, and some very sad news for a legend playing and coaching the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, he is one of the best who's ever donned the shirt. And I have a particular affinity for the big linebacker types who just love to kill people for a living. And he was the type of guy that was, but great player for us as they done the head coach. And it's a real shame. I think we had him second overall, even over the likes of Megatron, because that's how big he is to this team. Obviously, fans from a lot long ago may not remember, but yeah, it's very sad. 93. It's good innings at least for him, but it's sad nonetheless. So, yeah, incredibly sad.
All right, it's Bucs preview time, so let's get on with this. The Bucs come to Detroit once again. The Bucs were 10-9 last year, first in the NFC South. They won in the wildcard round but lost to Detroit in the divisional round. They are 1-0 this season with a 37-20 win against Washington. The betting this week has the Tampa Bay Bucks at 11-4. That's plus 275 in American money. The line's therefore 7-2 on or minus 350. It's a 7.5 point spread in favour of the Lions, and the over-under is a very optimistic 51.5. Injury report is long for both teams. For Detroit, Marcus Davenport, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and Penei Sewell have not practiced Wednesday or Thursday. Kirby Joseph didn't practice on Wednesday but returned today. Jameson Williams was limited on Wednesday. He played through his injury in the actual game. I don't think there's any worry there that he's going to be out, though we don't know his status today as yet. For the Bucs, it's been confirmed that it's likely that cornerback Breece Hall is out for the season with a bad leg injury, and the safety Antoine Winfield Jr. has already been ruled out of this game, although I don't think he's going to be out for too long. It's just going to keep him out this week. Also, we've got Kalijah Cansey and Josh Hayes, who did not practice on Wednesday, and I think Cansey was out last week. And then KJ Britt, Golson, Gadecki, and Logan Hall and Zion McCollum were all limited in practice on Wednesday, so a long list. They also have the running back Chase Edmonds on IR currently. Gary, you've been hit by the injury bug, and there's some key players in there.
We certainly have, and not only is the list long, as has happened in previous seasons, all the players that are injured belong to the same position group. We've lost 3 defensive tackles. You're right, Kalijah Cansey was out last week. He injured his calf, same calf that he did in training camp last year that cost him the first, I think, 4 games last year. This time he did it at the end of training camp. So on that basis, he's going to be out another 4 or 5 weeks, which is a real shame. Logan Hall missed last week. The way Todd Bowles was talking, he might be available this week, but quite frankly, he's not the best defensive tackle in the league, shall we say? And we'd already put one on IR, Ernest Brown. So you've got 3 defensive tackles out, and you've got best part of half the starting secondary is out in Winfield, who's by far the best defensive player on the team. Bryce Hall, you were right, went out. Broken leg, dislocated ankle, Zion McCollum, concussion. So, I mean, he might well be back, hopefully. We certainly need him. And then Josh Hayes, another cornerback, reserve cornerback, but, a useful player to have. It was so bad last week that they put Christian Isian, who's an undrafted free agent safety out of Rutgers last year. He played cornerback for the second half. Never played cornerback in his life before. That's how bad it was. And they've pulled people off the street this week. They've signed a guy called Keenan Isaac, who they cut in the last round of cuts. So at least they've got somebody who knows the system. But I mean, quite frankly, if you turn up at the Detroit Stadium on Saturday with your boots, you'll probably get a game.
I mean, maybe one of your Bucs UK can go over early.
Yeah, if I was a bit younger, I'd be tempted myself. But yeah, it's bad. The injury's been really bad, and I wonder whether it's got anything to do with pre-season. Because I don't know what Detroit are like, but hardly any of the starters played any of the pre-season games. The last game against Miami, they played the first drive. It was 6 plays, I think, or 7 plays. Scored a touchdown, pulled them out, and that was their pre-season. So first time you go into a game, they're dropping like flies because they're not hardened. So, I just wonder whether it is the pre-season, whether that's got anything to do with it.
I would tend to agree. The Lions didn't play any of their bona fide starters at all, any reps whatsoever, and the peripheral ones got some play, but then they were yanked as if they were a starter in your scenario. So it was mainly backups and people jostling to be on the 53, which I kind of think that's what it was for all along anyway. But, way back when there was 4 preseason games, you at least gave them a half in the game 1 or game 2 before yanking them for game 3 and 4. So you are missing that, I think.
Without a doubt. And further back in time, they used to have 6 preseason games. So, you can imagine what that was like. And, 2 or 3 a day practices in Florida sun. So that really hardened them up, So, but it is what it is. There'll be 53 players out there on Sunday. They'll drop the injured ones, obviously. And there'll be people out there wearing the shirt. That's all that matters. You can only play the people you've got available.
And about the Lions injuries, obviously Kirby coming back is heartening. I know that Ryan in the chat on Discord was saying Saul could have a foot missing and he'd still play, but it's not exactly ideal that he's missed Wednesday and Thursday. And Davenport played all game last week, but he's not exactly been the most healthy player through his career, and he played well last week, but it's no good if he's not practicing.
What? Marcus Davenport's injured? Never. Wow, I would never have seen that one come in. He's played 1 game and he's already on the crocked list. Sorry, I don't have much slew for him at this moment in time. He better play. Saul had his leg rolled up on. He's resting. I don't care. Penny Saul doesn't need to practice another day in his life. He will be absolutely fine. He's one of the best tackles in the league. He will always be one of the best tackles in the league. I'm not fussed about him getting a bit of rest just because he's been rolled up on. That's absolutely fine with me. If he's been, if he's not trained much recently, again, not really too worried about that at that moment in time. But Davenport's the one. He needs to be healthy. He can't afford to miss any game time because, quite frankly, if he does, then he's gone. He needs to have a full healthy season here and be a good contributor. But as far as injury lists go, I'd rather have ours than what the Bucs have or what the Rams had. To be fair, we're doing pretty well, all things considered. So there's nothing that uber concerns me right now. Saul's going to be absolutely fine.
All right, let's move on to the depth chart for the Buccaneers, and the starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Behind him is Kyle Trask. Running back, Rashad White, and then Bucky Irving, the rookie, and Sean Tucker. Wide receivers are Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Jalen McMillan, with Trey Palm and Cameron Johnson behind them. The starting 5 on the offensive line, Tristan Wirfs, Ben Bredesen, Graham Barton, rookie, Cody Mulch, and Luke Godecki behind them. Justin School, Royce Newman, Robert Hainsey, Elijah Klein, and tight ends I completely missed. Cade Otton, Payne Durham, Co Cleeft, and rookie Devin Culp. On defense, they play a 3-4 in base. Their starters would be Logan Hall, Vita Vea, and Kalijah Cansey, but God knows what it's going to be. Behind them, William Golston, Greg Gaines, and Ben Still. Outside linebackers Joe Tryon Shoyinka and Yaya Diaby, still my draft crush from last year. Chris Braswell, the rookie, Anthony Nelson, Jose Ramirez, and Marquise Watts behind them. Inside linebackers of Levante David, KJ Britt, and then Savossier Dennis and JJ Russell are their backups, although Dennis seems to be making a career for himself as an edge rusher these days. You got your outside corners being Zion McCollum, if he plays, and Jamel Dean. Behind them, Josh Hayes, Keenan Isaac, and Tyreek Funderburg. That is not a name I've ever read out before. Nickelback.
I'm very disappointed you didn't title the show Funderburg's Our Go, but, you missed a trick there.
Oh, that would be so good. Nickelbacks, when they're on the field, Tyke Smith, rookie, and Christian Isian, although masquerading as an outside corner these days, apparently. And then starting safeties, Jordan Whitehead and Antoine Winfield Jr., although not this week, with Kayvon Merriweather and Tavir Thomas behind them. Kicker is Jake Kamada. No, Chase McLaughlin. Punter is Jake Kamada. Long snapper, Evan Deckers. And when you look at that team, what comes to mind for you? I mean, we saw a lot of the Bucs last year with a lot of dead cap, getting all that way to play us, and it was a close run thing in the end in the playoffs last year, and then they hit the ground running with a good win against a Washington team that maybe isn't the best from last year, but Jaden Daniels really came alive. We'll talk about the Washington game in a minute, but it's a feisty team.
Yeah, they're like us. They've got a quarterback who defines the tone of the team, who is exactly like Jared Goff. He was forgotten about. He was, meant to fail, and he doesn't know the meaning of it, and he just continues to defy every expectation. And the Browns are looking at him going, why the hell did we ever let him go? We got our completely expensive, useless £220 million man there. But they're a tough team, and they're one of the few teams in this league who I would never, ever underestimate, because, as I say, they play like us. They play strong. They play hard. They're so aggressive on defense, it's a nightmare to try and overcome. They gave us a load of problems last year. Neither of those games were easy, and they're expecting another really tough one here, despite the injuries. There's a lot of young players in there who are willing to prove a point. We saw what the Rams did with a very young defense the other day. They are, they've got a point to prove, and they don't care that they're young. They don't care that they're not veterans yet. They just go out, they'll make plays, and if they're well coached, which Tampa are, then they're going to give you a lot of problems. I mean, it's offense quite similar to what we saw last year. Obviously, you've got a Hall of Fame wide receiver in there. You've got a really good second one. You've got good depth in there. Offensive line, 3 of the same 5 that you saw last year as well. So, same quarterback, same starting running back. So you would expect it to be quite similar to what we've seen going forward. And then on defense, it's very young. But I guess with a lot of injuries in there, it's going to be very young. A lot of first, a lot of second-year guys. But again, they're going to be hella aggressive. They're going to come right after us. They're going to try and stop us doing what we do well. So, yeah, it's a Bucs team that is undermanned, that's hurt by injuries, but they're not going to be any less ferocious about it. They're going to come out here and they're not going to care. And they're the most dangerous teams. Hence why they gave us 2 very good games last year. So it's going to be interesting. I think we are a matchup nightmare for them this year. I do, but I am still not going to underestimate them, not until that final whistle's gone.
Gary, when you kind of take a high-level look at your roster overall, how do you feel about it, and how's that kind of changed from last year? Do you feel that you've improved as a team overall? Because you haven't really lost a lot.
Yeah, we've improved a lot from last year. You touched on the dead cap that we had. It was ridiculous. 80 odd million last year that in dead cap, which of course we haven't got this year. But we've improved, and we've improved in the places where we needed to improve. You've touched on the line, the offensive line. The weak spot last year, without any doubt, was in the centre. Our first round pick was on a centre, and he's made a heck of a difference. We've improved the left guard as well. A free agent signing from the Giants, Ben Bredesen. So the line is an awful lot better. We've improved a lot. And one thing that Todd Bowles wants to do is run the ball. we haven't done that very well the last 2 years. We're dead last in the league. So we draft a running back, Bucky Irvin, and he's really made a difference. I think you'll see in the not too distant future him starting the game as the starting running back and relegating Rashad White to almost to a third down role. As a pure running back, Bucky Irvin is probably better than Rashad White. And I hate saying that because I've got Rashad White in 2 of my fantasy teams. But, we've improved, no question about it.
All right, let's move on to just have a look and see how the team did last year statistically. Baker Mayfield. In fact, no, sorry, let's talk about general stats. PFF had it as a 21st overall team. DVOA had 18th overall. On offense, it was 17th and 20th. On defense, 23rd and 14th. So a big disparity between PFF and DVOA on those two metrics on the defense. Baker Mayfield completed 64% of his passes for 4,044 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, passer rating of 94.6, QBR of 54.3, and a PFF grade of 77.2. Rashad White was the lead back, 272 for 990, which is 3.6 yards per attempt and 6 touchdowns. Also had 64 completions on 70 throws his way, 8.6 yards per catch and 3 touchdowns. PFF grade of 67.5 for him. These are all regular season stats, not including playoffs. Mike Evans, 79 of 136, 1,255 yards. That's almost 16 yards per catch and 13 touchdowns. PFF grade of 81.5. He's gone over 1,000 yards every single year of his career, quite famously, and if he stays healthy, there's no doubt he'll do it again this year. He looked incredible last week. And Chris Godwin continues his amazing career as well. 83 of 130 for 1,024. That's 12.3 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns. PFF grade of 77.5. Over other good PFF grades, Tristan Wirfs and Gedeke. Is it Gedeke? Gedeke? I heard both pronunciations.
Yeah, they all pronounce it Gedeke.
Gedeke, yeah. Poorer grades from the starting centre last year, who you've already alluded to, Robert Hainsey with a 50 grade. And the guard from North Dakota State, Cody Mulch, was 43.9 last year, but he's still starting at right guard, I believe. Is that right?
He is, yes. But he was a rookie last year, so we can give him a little bit of leeway.
Absolutely. Draftees on the offensive side of the ball. Centre Graham Barton from Duke, who I think was maybe everyone's second favourite player in the draft. It felt like every team felt like they had a shot at him, and he could play in all 5 positions, I think, was the thing about him.
He can indeed, yeah. Yeah, although they drafted him to be centre, and that's where he's going to spend his Buccaneer career, without a doubt.
Starting wide receiver Jalen McMillan from Washington was drafted 92 overall. Then Bucky Irving, already mentioned, running back out of Oregon at 125. Then there was Klein, the guard from UTEP at 220, and the tight end Colt from Washington at 246. Free agent gain guard was Ben Bredesen, we've already mentioned, from the Giants, 1 year, $3 million. And then the losses, wide receiver Russell Gage went to Baltimore, and Aaron Stinney, guard, went back to the Giants, so you just swapped 1 for 1 there, but I would say that's probably a big advantage for you guys. They were 10th in 3rd down conversions, 2nd in 4th down conversion rate, but 30th in the red zone, so that was a big issue last year, despite having some really good red zone receivers, which I don't really understand in Evans, and I think Cade Otton's quite good down there, so we can go into that in maybe just a little bit. On the defensive side of the ball, Levante David was the lead tackler. He had 5 passes defended and a forced fumble, 4.5 sacks, 134 tackles, and a PFF grade of 72. Vita Vea is obviously the beast in the middle. 2 forced fumbles, 5.5 sacks, 43 tackles, 9 quarterback hits, a PFF grade of 80. Yaya Diaby, I mentioned him already, only played 7 games, I think, last year, but a forced fumble and 2 fumble recoveries, 7.5 sacks in those 7 games. 38 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, PFF grade of 60.8. I think, let's break that. Is that to do with his run defense, basically? Because he was a heck of a pass rusher.
Yes, I think it probably is, yeah.
Other good grades in there, Jamal Dean, corner, 74.3, and the linebacker KJ Britt at 70. Some not so good grades. Logan Hall, defensive tackle, already mentioned maybe he's not the best in the world, 52. Zion McCollum, the corner, at 50, and Kalijah Cansey at 49.7. The draftees on that side of the ball, Chris Braswell from Alabama in the second round, the outside linebacker, and the safety / nickelback Tyke Smith from Georgia at 89 overall. The free agency gains, safety Jordan Whitehead returns from the Jets, 2 years, $9 million. Randy Gregory, the edge rusher who seems to be passed from pillar to post, comes from San Francisco, 1 year, $3 million. I didn't mention him. Why is he listed on here? He was cut, was he?
Yeah, you won't be surprised to hear he never even turned up.
Right, fair enough.
I was going to say not for any OTAs, meetings, training camp, you name it. He never set foot in Tampa.
Did you give him any guaranteed money?
Was it guaranteed? I hope it was.
I hope not too. That's shocking. Yeah. But
yeah,
well, time to call it a career perhaps for him. Cornerbacks, Tavir Thomas as well, DB I should say, from Houston, 1 year, $1.5 million. Lost Shaq Barrett to Miami, although did he retire in the end?
He did.
I think he did.
He did.
He couldn't face not being in Tampa in another Florida team.
Well, he lives in Tampa. He's not going anywhere. So no. He's one of us.
And perhaps addition by subtraction with Devin White going to Philadelphia. Third down defense was 23rd in terms of percentage rate allowed. Fourth down was 14th. In the red zone, though, the opposite to the offense where they really excelled. That was third overall. Are there any sort of grades in there, Gary, that you kind of don't agree with necessarily? Because Cansey, that seems very low, and he is super explosive. Is that just because he's kind of a rookie again, do you think?
Yeah, probably. He did miss the first 4 or 5 games of the season with that calf injury that we alluded to. And they did bring him along, a bit like Yaya. They brought them along quite slowly. Yaya wasn't starting until halfway through the season. So yeah, that grade might be reflected on that. KJ Britt also, he was sharing time with the aforementioned Devin White. So, you never really get in a rhythm. So, no, I mean, the grades are what the grades are. The only grade I'm interested in is what the scoreboard says at the end of the game.
I think you'll find a kindred spirit there with Ant, who pours scorns on those sorts of things as well. And listening to all of those stats and those grades, it was, I mean, a good year last year, but those tackles did very well, just generally speaking. But that red zone offense and red zone defensive numbers, I mean, tell maybe a little bit of a story. Are you surprised that the offense wasn't able to convert as much, but the defense really, came to light then? Because on third down, they weren't fantastic on defense, according to the conversion numbers at least.
I mean, I can only go, I don't watch all their games, so I can only go off what they want with us. But the very glaring thing was they can't run the football. That means your red zone offense is going to struggle when you can't run the football. When you're obviously going to be passing the ball, it's easier for teams to defend against. That makes plays. So maybe not. But again, I don't watch every single one of their games. And again, as you rightly alluded to, I don't care about PFF grades at all. All I know is this is a very well-drilled team that plays really good football. And you say they did really well last year and gave us 2 of our toughest games. I mean, they stopped us running the football. That first game was so difficult. It's a great run defense. It's aggressive at getting to the passer. It can make your day a nightmare. So, they're a good team who I respect, and I don't really look at the grades when it comes to them. It's kind of like us, a lot of people disrespect us as a team and don't really appreciate what we do either. So, all I know overall is they're very good and they're very tough to beat, and you've got to hit them with a sledgehammer to break them down.
Let's talk about the Washington. Please.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, you asked me earlier about where have we improved, and the one place we have improved more than any other, I would say, is the guy holding the headset or wearing the headset on the sideline. We lost Dave Canales as the offensive coordinator. He's now head coach of the Panthers. Dave Canales only had one play, and it was run the running back up behind the center and guard. And that's your reason, as Anthony said, that we weren't very good in the red zone. we've got a new OC this year, Liam Cohen, and we're already seeing the fruits of that. 37 points against Washington last Sunday. So that's where we've improved the most. And I think you'll see a much better red zone offense because of that.
Given that, were you surprised that Canales was hot topic of conversation in the off-season to be a head coach? I know that he wasn't getting a huge amount of interviews, but he did end up getting the job. So,
I was quite surprised. I'll be honest. We only see him obviously in the press conferences, and he comes across as being the most positive, upbeat person you've ever met. You know, his press conferences are just something to behold. Knows all the reporters by name and calls them by name, you know, things like that. And I suspect that's what won over. It's Tepper, isn't it, the owner of the Panthers? But of course, he interferes a lot. So I can't see it working out for him at the Panthers. I really can't. And I mean, how did they do last week?
yeah, that was laying an egg big time. They're in a world of trouble, but I don't think that's down to him. But will he survive the regime? Probably not either. So,
well, yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's the regime that's the problem. I'm very happy for him. Baker Mayfield speaks really highly of him. So I'm happy that he got a head coaching job. He's obviously earning the big bucks. But I'm even happier that we've got Liam Cohen because he is the one person who's going to make the biggest difference, I think, to our team.
Let's talk about Washington. You've mentioned it there. On the offensive side of the ball, a couple of things really occurred to me. One was just how much more on it Baker looked compared to almost every other quarterback in week one. It was palpable that our own, Jared Goff was struggling a little bit for rhythm, didn't have his best day, but that seems to be fairly consistent around the league, that week one's a bit slow. But Baker was in rhythm early. He's just a master at that kind of two-step drop and get the ball out in 2 seconds or less. And, when you've got Godwin and Evans being able to get free so quickly, it kind of makes that... I mean, it's an easy offense for him to run, but then he runs it so well that it seems pretty seamless, and it was palpable how quick that was.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. The phrase that I keep hearing, mid-season form. So, he's already in mid-season form. And if he is, and he stays fit, then, he's going to have a hell of a year. I think what helped him, though, was Chris Godwin moving back into the slot. We had 3 consecutive third downs that were completed to Chris Godwin. Canales last year had Godwin out on the edge with Mike Evans. Liam Cohen's moved him back into the slot. Much easier to find. He's much better there. What more can you say? It's he looked fantastic against Washington. There's no question.
I mean, the 3 third down conversions were in the mix of 13 straight completions as well that he had, which I think was the longest completion streak of the weekend. Another thing as well, obviously, Godwin's only been able to move back to the slot because McMillan's kind of taken that outside role. And I know he only had 1 catch, but I think he drew 2 DPIs potentially, as well as having his touchdown catch. I thought maybe it was 1 DPI, but he definitely drew 1 that was quite egregious. So
I can remember 1. Certainly, he made the rookie error on his first catch attempt, where he turned upfield and run with it before he'd even caught it.
And he was going to walk in for a touchdown then as well. That was leaving 7 points out there.
Yeah, without a doubt. But the second one, the one pass he caught, the touchdown, 32 yards, I believe, and there wasn't a Washington player within 5 yards of him when he caught it. So he had all the time in the world, but it's the easy ones that you drop, isn't it? And then he strolled in without anyone touching him. So I think he's the steal of the draft. I really do. I know I might be a bit biased, but I think he's the steal of the draft. A bit like Yaya last year, 3rd round again, of course.
Yeah, I loved McMillan in the process, so I'm not jealous at all. On running back wise, I think both White and Irving had a really good day. There was lots of screens being thrown to them as well, but Irving especially led the team in rushing on only 9 carries, and just lightning, isn't he? He's very slippery.
He's he hits the hole hard. There's no question. He's not the quickest in sort of top speed, but he hits the hole, and more importantly, he sees the hole, and that's Rashad White's problem. Rashad White is sensational when he's out in the flat catching the ball. He always catches it. He always makes the first guy miss, and he'll always make you quite a few yards. Which is why I said earlier, I can see Bucky Irving and Rashad White almost swapping roles later in the season.
Mm. Looking at the offensive line, I thought it was an up and down day, potentially. I know that Worth's, so he moved over from right to left, hasn't he? And he gave up a sack and a TFL. I'm not sure they were necessarily his fault, but I think it was Jamin Davis beat him for a TFL early, and I can't remember who got the sack, but I don't think he struggled necessarily outside of those 2 reps, but they were noticeable reps. But otherwise, it looked like Baker was under pressure a fair bit, and the runs early on weren't doing so well. You kind of ground them down, and maybe that's why Bucky had such success in the second half, was that you did the hard yards in the first. But what was the thoughts on the offensive line? I thought Barton had an up and down first day in the office.
Yeah, you could say that. The thing for me with the centre is you don't want shotgun snaps flying over the quarterback's head or scooting along the ground and going through his legs. Every snap, literally every single snap, was on point. He's very aggressive. The line is probably the one thing that you want to play more in pre-season, so they can get the chemistry down, get the communication down. Tristan Wirfs, he probably still is, you could say, learning the left tackle, although he had all season last year there. But, it's chemistry, isn't it? And first game of the season, give them 3 or 4 weeks, they'll be absolutely fine.
Final thing I'll throw in with the offense, it's not anything other than just a salute to Baker Mayfield, because late on, I think there was a 3rd down in the 4th quarter. He scrambled out of massive pressure, have no idea how he stayed on his feet, got the first down, slid, and then gave it a Matrix style, I know Kung Fu celebration. It was amazing. I am absolutely here for just what a baller he is, because I know that there was accusations thrown at him early in his career that he was childish, and he just seems such a leader to me, like someone who people were going to follow. And there was a really nice moment where I think he's just become a father, and he was, meeting his wife and newborn on the sideline, and it looked like, that the man has really grown up, but also, again, when it comes to like little moments like that, he's not forgotten how to have fun.
No, absolutely. That sums the guy up. His teammates absolutely love him, and they would run through a brick wall for him. He's embraced is the word I'm looking for. The culture of Tampa. He lives in Tampa. He goes to Rays games. He goes to Lightning games when the season's on. He's seen about town. I just can't speak. I hated him as a Brown. I really did. But, he's my new best friend now. I absolutely love the guy. And just before we leave the offense, shout out, please, to the best offensive Buccaneer of all time. My friend, number 13, Mike Evans. The guy is phenomenal. Hall of Fame, first ballot, you name it. The guy is amazing. Can't speak highly enough of him.
The first touchdown that you scored, which was him against Benjamin St-Juste. St-Juste was all over him. The commentary said St-Juste played it perfectly, whereas I was looking at it going, that's the worst DPI I've ever seen. He's literally smothering him. It was much, much worse than the DPI that our own first round corner got called for in the end zone last week, and yet Evans just bodies him, like throws him aside to catch the ball. No question of OPI there. I use that metaphorically, but he really is just a man mountain, and St. Jude's really had to get up in there to have any chance, and still didn't really have any.
Yeah, no, I don't think one-on-one, no one's going to cover Mike. He might get the odd occasion, but if the team leaves him one-on-one with the cornerback, Mike Evans is going to win all the time. So I really hope you do that on Sunday.
I suspect that Terry and Arnold will see a few reps against him, and that's actually one of the matchups I want to get to later, is thinking about what the hell we're going to do with that, because it's going to be a fun fight. Let's just move on to defense briefly. And I say briefly because I'm not really sure what to make of it, Gary, because, I mean, the big takeaway is you didn't do very well against the rushing quarterback. Well, we don't have one of those, apart from he maybe can run for 8 yards once. He was called White Vic after the game, which is a very tongue-in-cheek thing. But, you know, I don't think that's going to be a consistent thing week to week, unless, say, you face, I don't know, Baltimore or something. Then are you reading anything in particular against what happened with Washington?
The Bucs historically haven't been too good against running quarterbacks. Back in the day against Michael Vick, yeah, but the last few years, no. And we've got a few of them on the schedule again this year. We've got Jalen Hurts coming up. We've got Lamar Jackson coming up. I'll be at both those games, coincidentally. So I'm glad we got Jalen Daniels week 1. That's all I'll say. Probably a little bit nervous. He runs like like the wind. He's an exceptional runner. He's going to give a lot of teams fits, and we just couldn't handle him.
Otherwise, though, you continue to bring heavy pressure basically every single rep that you can. It's a very noticeable thing about how you play. And that really helped Savossier Dennis. It was notable to me how much he was lining up on the edge as that sort of Sam linebacker and giving tackles really big problems.
Yeah, he played really, really well. I mean, we've not seen much of him at all last season. He couldn't get on the field, basically. But he played exceptionally well. He bullied Yaya out the way for the sack that he got. So yeah, I'm again another third round. I think he was a third rounder. I believe so. Yeah, he's looking good. If they play him on the edge, it's a necessity because we've got so many injuries, I think. So I can see that happening again.
And did you happen to catch the game at all?
I watched some of it, yeah. I thought, like I said on Monday, I think the Bucs probably the most impressive performance of any team in week 1. I thought they were very good. I thought Washington were actually pretty decent as well and gave them a good game. But for overall, they just played a very clean game. They're obviously a better team than Washington. And yeah, it's nothing that I wouldn't expect from them. That was like the quintessential Bucs performance for me. But they were very good in that. Baker looked awesome. So we know what they are, and they're going to be very tough, as I say. But yeah, it was a very good performance. I don't think many teams play better than them.
Let's talk about matchups then specifically. So Lions in the trenches on the offensive line against this Bucs defensive line. And you mentioned it before, in the first matchup we had against them last year, they managed to bottle up our run game pretty damn well. But it's a Buccaneers team that's facing those injuries up front, Logan Hall and Kalijah Cansey. So, and what do you think's going to happen in that realm? Because, it's what we hang our hat on, but until we started well and we ended well in the run game, but that middle part of the game last week didn't exactly give us, well, let's say the offense went a bit stagnant. And there's Vita Vea in there, so it's not going to be easy.
I mean, this offense was very rusty. Like Gary said, with some of their players, ours didn't play in the preseason, and they looked very much like a team who had not. They looked like very much like a group who hadn't played a lot. Like, apart from the big splash play for JMO, there wasn't a lot we really got going early doors. So the way I look at this, and I've been very We've been very complimentary about the Bucs so far, more than any other team on this. But me and Matt are very much good cop, bad cop on this. Matt loves to butter up other teams. I love to point out realisticness here. But in the trenches, when I talk about a team who's, where I think we're a matchup nightmare, I'd start with our defensive line first. So last year, I mean, I can only go off what we did last year, but 660 yards of offense the Bucs put down on us last year and 3 touchdowns. 137 of that was on the ground, 522, and all the touchdowns were through the air. And they are still very much, even in week 1 this year, they had what, about 110 yards on the ground, averaging about 4 yards per carry. It's still not there. And you've got an offensive line that's very young. Graham Barton's a first-year centre. Cody Mouch is a second-year right guard. Gadecki, if he plays, he's a year 3 right tackle, but they're both small school guys. Wirfs is obviously amazing. You brought Bredesen in, who wasn't great for the Giants last year. He may be better here, but I look and I'm thinking, we kept the Rams down to 80 yards rushing last week. We have got maybe the best run defense in the NFL, and we're adding DJ Reader into the mix this week. You've got DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike. I just don't see where that run game's coming from. Even with the brand new offensive line there, they've got 2 guys in there who are new. I just think it's going to be very difficult for them to run on us as always. Like, the running backs, I love Bucky Irvin. Bucky Irvin's made with axle grease. It's so hard to tackle him. But the one thing our DTs do well is tackle people. On the edge, we've been very consistently good all this time. I would expect this D-line to hold up very well against their run game. And then that forces them to throw through the air. And the trouble is then, you can beat us through the air, but we won time of possession in both last year's games by about 20 minutes. And you don't want to face this line's offense for 20 minutes more than your offense is on the field. And again, I don't see for me, I just see it as been a big mismatch, is that we're going to be able to stop this run game. We've revamped our secondary. It's still going to get burnt. It's still in its phase where it's gaining continuity. They're all new and they're all rookies. We've seen Branch. He's going through teething troubles in his new position. It's going to be tough. But when you look at the matchup, I just see what I saw from last year, that we maybe get burnt through the air, but we're going to have more time on the clock. We're going to be able to do more. And our offensive line, they've got injuries there, unfortunately. And, I like to beat teams full strength. I want to see this Bucs teams full strength. I want to beat them full strength at home. But our offensive line is just that damn good. You saw what it did in overtime last week, and it's going to click better. And with the addition of Jameson Williams to our team, it opens up that run game. You saw what the Rams did to us last week. They stopped us running the ball really well. They took Amon-Ra out the game. They took Laporta out the game. You took 4 of our guys out the game, but what did that leave? It left one-on-one Jameson Williams with 34-year-old Tre'Davious White, which we were able to exploit. And if the Bucs have to do the same, and they're running low on the secondary, our offensive line will hold up and give Goff the time to throw down the field on them. So, when it comes to trenches, I look at both sides of the ball here, and I just see a lot of similarities to last year and how we were able to win games. So I think on both sides, it's favored. I mean, the blitz stuff is hard for us to deal with. I would hope that Ben's picked up on this from last year, because noticeably in game 1 against them, we couldn't run for love nor money. And it took JMO to unlock them. Like, that was the first time JMO had a really big pass that year. But I think the trenches favour us on both sides of the ball. And I think this is where, if we win it, this is definitely where it's going to happen.
What do you think on that, Gary, on the trenches?
Sadly for me, I actually agree with that. I think if we had everybody fit and everybody out there that we wanted to be out there, then I think we match up a lot better. But given the injuries, especially if Gadecki doesn't play, our right tackle, then, if he doesn't play, where's Aiden Hutchinson going to line up? I've got a sneaking feeling he might line up on the left side of your line. I think, we all know games are won and lost in the trenches, aren't they? I think without our injuries, I think we match up a lot better. With the injuries, I think you're going to win both sides of the line, quite frankly, and that does worry me a little bit.
Moving on to the wide receivers against the DBs, I mean, it feels like it's kind of advantage offense for me a little bit. The way that you blitz is something that in game 2 we kind of really took advantage of a bit in the air, but in game 1 obviously you did very well and held us so not very much offense at all, quite frankly. But you know, with Amon-Ra and now JMO coming to the fore and Sam Laporta and all those guys, you still have a fantastic defense even with that said. And then on the other side of it, yeah, as Ant said, we've really suffered in the passing game last year. We were a terrible pass defense, but with Terry and Arnold coming in, Brian Branch moving back, and then of course Carlton Davis coming in, who obviously you know very well, the room looks very, very different now. Carlton Davis apparently has given a great scouting report about the Buccaneers wide receivers, although to be fair, they're not exactly hidden in terms of what they do, so I'm not sure how valuable that is. How do you see, Gary, the passing game going for both teams?
Well, our passing game is going to be very good because I would put our passing game up against any defense in the league, quite frankly, with Evans and Godwin, and now McMillan, and don't forget Trey Palmer as well. He's a real speed merchant. He's the Jameson Williams equivalent, I suppose, albeit not as experienced, not as a high draft pick as Williams was. Our receivers can beat anybody. On the other side of it, with our banged up secondary, the way Goff has picked us apart last year in both games, particularly in the playoff game, I think you're going to win that as well. I really do. You've got a couple of fantastic receivers there. In I can never say his name, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
That's it.
And I used to be a big fan of a guy called Chris Amon, same spelling. He was a racing driver back in the 70s and 80s. So I want to call him Amon St. Brown. Jameson Williams as well. I've got him on one of my fantasy teams. So, it's one of those situations. I want him to do well, but I don't want him to do well. So I think we'll win. And I think you'll win when it comes to the receivers when they're on the field, which is why I hope our offense stays on the field quite a lot, because I think we need to hide our defense by keeping them on the sideline.
And just a brief question about the Lions defense, passing defense last week, and the Bucs this week. The Lions have been criticised for being a bit soft in coverage, wanting to keep everything in front of them and allowing Rams to have these long 9 to 14 play drives where they won the time of possession by 5 to 10 minutes. Can't remember the exact number, but Glenn didn't gamble a bit more, knowing maybe that Stafford was under pressure. Do you think that approach is going to change in this game? I mean, I don't mean would you change it, because I think a lot of people would, but do you think Glenn is for changing here? Because the way that Baker plays the game and the way that Stafford play the game, I've made this comparison before, is pretty similar. And I mean, Baker has that quick twitch release that Stafford has. Baker actually in the game against Washington was very good with killing plays, recognizing pressure, changing the protections. He was the first overall pick. So, he's a very smart guy. I kind of see us playing it a very similar way, and people get a bit pissed off with this.
Aaron Glenn got it completely the wrong way round the other day. We were too aggressive when the opposition team was in. When we got burnt for that 60-yarder from Cup, Carlton Davis completely sold out against him and went in to try and tackle him and got shook off, and there was no one to protect down the field. We give up 60 yards. That's not where you're aggressive. That is where you give them 5 yards. Like, they were at 3rd and 10. You sit back and you give him 5 yards and then you tackle him. We were way too aggressive. But then down the field, That's where you want to be a little bit more aggressive because the field's a little more shrunk. You've got protection in there, and we were standing off and doing nothing. So I felt like he did it completely the wrong way. You've got to stand off a little bit when you've got 70 yards of the field to protect, and then you need to be a little bit more aggressive when you've got less of the field to protect. So, yeah, I think he needs to change what he's doing. They were giving up too many yards, and you've got to get our offense on the field. Our defense has its problems. It's a brand new secondary. It's going to take time to gel. If you keep letting them get targeted, if you let a quarterback who is very good, which Baker is, get in his flow like with his staff, it's very hard to get them off the field. They don't even need to run the football. So I would agree things need to change. And the trouble is, you're not coming up against. I mean, like Nakua was injured for a lot of this game, so we were playing Cooper Kupp. Like in this game, you're coming up against a future Hall of Famer. You are coming up against one of the best wide receiver twos in the league. And then you've got the likes of like Jalen McMillan is in a perfect spot there. He's wide receiver 3. What was he at Washington last year behind Roma Dunze and Jalen Polk? Wide receiver 3. He does a lot of underappreciated work that nobody takes into account. He makes a lot of clutch catches and very much earns the trust of his quarterback. I mean, what was it? Just one catch the other day, touchdown. Like you can't overlook him. You can't send extra guys over to the top tier players and leave him one-on-one with someone because he'll beat them. You've got a downfield threat with Trey Palmer. So, you've got to be. I think you've got to be aggressive in these guys. The games I specifically remember last year, I think Mike Evans had us on toast in the playoff game. It just felt like we were always sat back from him. It felt like we didn't trust any of our DBs to go one-on-one against him and really try and put some pressure on him and make plays. I get that you don't want to get burnt, but at some point, you've got to go and get these guys. And if we are, as I think we're able to, again, stop this Tampa run game, you've got to get aggressive against the receivers because if you're going to sit in soft coverage, they're going to take advantage of it because it's an easy way for them to move the chains. You've got to make them earn this. You've got to take some risks. So I think Aaron Glenn does have to change certainly what he does. I hate this soft coverage stuff. I hate how guys get open against us all the time. Like it just always feels like there's a man open and trust your guys. Like Carlton Davis, I would trust him to go out one-on-one with someone. I would trust Terry and Arnold to do it. Terry and Arnold is going through now. You've got to put him through trial by fire. None of this sitting him back, not letting him make plays. This is the guy you want to be your cornerback 1 for the next decade. You are entrusting that secondary to him for that long. You've got to let him go out there and you've got to let him learn. I kind of like Mike Evans is going to give him a rude introduction to the league, but I also fancy him to make some plays on him as well. It's a give and take thing with all this. So I think it does need to change. I would like to see us be a bit more trusting of our DBs to go after some of these guys because you can't let Evans and Godwin play. You can't just give them free receptions because they're going to kill you. So yeah, Aaron has to change a lot going into this. And, this is going to be a tough learning curve for our brand new secondary. I've said the first 6-7 weeks are going to be with some of the guys we're facing. So, but on the flip side, again, I think, I agree with Gary. I think both teams are going to flourish. And again, if you're a Tampa defense that's missing a lot of your senior guys and you've got a lot of younger guys in there, as I say, we got 5 guys you've got to nullify. You've got to nullify the 2 in the backfield. You've got to nullify Monty's power run game. You've got to nullify Gibbs running outside the tackles. You've got to nullify Amon-Ra and Laporta going through the middle. You've got to nullify J-Mo going down the side. And, if their top safety's out injured, you've got to be careful because if they're going to drop these guys in, you've got to give the corners help against J-Mo. It's going to lighten the box and it's going to allow us to get some of those intermediate passes that Jared Goff so loves to do, which he wasn't really able to do against the Rams. So, it's hard to mark 5 game-changing options when you're running short. So I think both passing offenses will feast, but I just want to see us go aggressive against their receivers. Just let these guys go out and learn the hard way.
Gary, we all know that the NFL is scripted. So, how do you see this game of script going, and what's your score prediction at the end?
Oh, goodness me. I think you asked me that last year, and I said I would never pick against the Bucs.
That's the theme of your. So I just did this very
Yeah.
quickly before Gary does it. I did go and watch the Bucs UK podcast before this about this, and I noted down all their scores. And all I can say is their panel wants us to die because three of them. So 33-30 to the Bucs on a walk-off, 34-31 to the Bucs on a walk-off, 27-24 to the Bucs on a walk-off 58-yard field goal. We are still not over that Baltimore one yet. And then 31-28 either way, uncommitted. But three walk-offs. We had an overtime game last week. The cardiac cats only, our hearts only can take so much. So if you could please not do a walk-off for them, if you're going to, I would feel good. I'm sat there listening, going, if they walk us off on a 58-yard goal field goal, I am going to scream so loud. I'm still not over that.
With our kicker, I'll tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if we did get a 58-yard field goal.
McLaughlin is amazing.
He's been phenomenal. Now, having said I would never pick against the Bucs, I'm going to pick against the Bucs. I know. I hate myself for it. I really do. I really can't see our defense holding up. Not with the kids that they're going to be putting out there, people playing out of position. We need to score, and we need to score a lot. We need to score often, and we need to score touchdowns. Field goals aren't going to win it. If we can do that, if we can get a lead and get ahead, then we'll keep it competitive like the playoff game last year. I think actually it will be a high-scoring shootout, but I think it's got to be because we're not going to win it any other way. I just can't see us doing it, not with our injuries. I really can't. So I've not really thought of a score, but something in the region of the ones that you quoted that our guys, 33-30. But I just think we're going to come out on the wrong end of it.
And how about you?
See, Matt will tell you that when it comes to these things, I'm always the one who loves to poke the bear and provoke a very big scoreline or something like that. But I love Bucs fans so much. They are so grounded and so honest about what they are. And that team plays so hard that I find it hard to say that we're going to absolutely trample them. So with that being said, I'm going to say something along the lines of the playoff game last year. So we won 29-23. I do think we might win by a score this time. So I'm going to go 29-23 again, repeat of the playoff game last year, because I know they are undermanned and that, but they are one of the toughest teams that you play, and they found a way to stop us in the past. I think it'll be like the Rams game. We'll sort of batter away, and eventually, towards the end, we'll break the door down, and that's what our team is. It will just beat you into submission eventually, and an understrength Bucs team. I think we'll do it just in the end, but not going to go a big scoreline. I respect them too much.
I think that the over is just a must here. I really do. Even though it's probably going to be the biggest over-under of the weekend, it just feels like both offenses are going to really take the top off on this. I don't think we're going to cover the 7.5 though. That feels ridiculous to me. I can't believe it's that long. Just because Evans, Godwin going to get theirs. And, it's going to come down to, can we stop them for a drive or two? And can we score every time we get the ball? And I think that's probably how it's going to go, roughly. So I'm going to go 42-36 to the Lions, but I think that will probably be something like the Bucs down 2 scores with 3-4 minutes to go, score a touchdown, onside kick in the fourth quarter. Have we seen an onside kick in the fourth quarter under the new rules this year? I don't know, but I think there'll be something like that. So either way, it's going to be a really exciting matchup. I mean, especially just to mention it, because I said I would before, we've obviously got Carlton Davis and Terry and Arnold against Evans and Godwin. We got Arnold against one of those two guys, and he obviously, let's say, had his ups and downs. I was very up on how he did last week, but he had his 2 DPIs. How do you see Arnold doing in particular?
Like I said, it's going to be trial by fire, and it is with any corner. Like, the Rams went hard after him, 12 targets on the day, so they were not scared to throw in his direction. I thought overall he held up very well against that. Like I said, he's already up at 1/12 the targets Sauce Gardner's had in 34 games after one game. Like, these guys, they're going to throw on rookie corners because even a savvy veteran like Matthew Stafford knows that they're going to be a little bit grabby, they're going to be a little bit handsy. They've not quite learnt just yet, and a savvy receiver will make life difficult for them. But at the same point, I would welcome it if you want to put him on Mike Evans all game. Then that would be a challenge I would welcome for him. He might lose it overall, but I think for his growth, for his experience, to have that tape for him will make him much better. I still believe that after 6 or 7 weeks, you will see him really come into his own. And I do think he's going to be a front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year when all is said and done. But just put him in there now and give him those challenges. It's not like Okuda. Like, Okuda was the only man in there and you kind of had to do it. But I trust him. You've got Brian Branch watching him. You can sit Branch, help him out, give him a bit of cover if he needs, give him a bit of leeway. But like, as I say, it's going to be up and down. I expect to see some plays where he gets rinsed. I expect some plays where people are, oh, okay, all right, that's a good player there. He made a good play, and he's going to learn ever so quick. Like I say, he's already got a ton of tape to watch from that first game. I expect him to get better. They've talked about getting him just to turn his head a bit, stop drawing those DPIs, just all these little things that he needs to do. He's going to be absolutely fine, and just keep throwing challenges. So he strikes me as the guy who wants to be under pressure as much as physically possible, and he will be better for that. But it's going to be a long day. We need to get to Baker. We need to sack him a lot more than we did last year, and try and prevent him from getting the ball out, because he ain't going to throw it in 2 seconds like Stafford. He will hold on to it for a little bit longer. So we've got to hope our guys get home. Got to really find a weakness on that offensive line and go for it. This is where the interior might come into it. Break through, go against the rookies, overload in there, give Aiden a bit of time and try and stop him throwing. We did that in the first game against them when they only got 6 with just 2 field goals in there. So kind of want the defensive performance from that first game.
Gary, we are going to go through the rest of the weekend's games. Do you want to stick around for that, or shall we say goodbye now? It's up to you.
How are we doing? I'd better call it a night, guys. Thanks
All right.
very much indeed.
I hope you enjoy the game, but I hope you enjoy even more going to have your 40th anniversary celebration. So have a great trip, and hopefully we'll see you later on in the season.
Well, I mean, if every chance that we're going to meet again in the playoffs. So
I would welcome that. I would welcome that.
Yeah. Could be
great.
good.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much for coming on again, Gary.
My pleasure.
All right,
All
take
the best,
care.
guys.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, and it's time to turn our attention to the rest of the weekend's matchups, and it starts tonight with the Bills at the Dolphins. And I was having a look at our predictions, of which I won last week, reigning champion, reigns supreme again. But having a look at the people who were picking the AFC East, and we had a lot of calls for Miami to win the East. AFC East, of course, that is. Yourself, you had the Jets, because you're a fool. How do you see...
The Jets played away at the 49ers. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. The Dolphins barely beat the Jaguars. So, let's not crow after 1 week.
And the Bills barely beat the Arizona Cardinals. So how do you see Bills at Dolphins going?
This is tough, right? I think this feels, these are two fraudulent teams. The Dolphins haven't won a playoff game since 1910? No, not that long, but what is it, 2001? They flatter to deceive, but the Dolphins are regular season bullies. It's when they get to the postseason that they're bad. The Bills, I see the Dolphins winning this. I'm still not sold on the Bills. They've still missed their window. Yes, they've still got Josh Allen, but generally the Dolphins are good at home. I think it'll be a good game. This has been like 2 really good weeks to start Thursday night football, and then next week we've got the Patriots and oh God, who is it next week? It's the Patriots and the Jets next week, and then
Patriots Jets, yeah.
we're subject to a bunch of so I got the Dolphins winning this and covering their money line of 2.5. I think 2.5 feels reasonable for them. It's steady.
I also have the Dolphins covering 2.5 at home, but it is going to be tight.
I mean, that 48.5 over under seems a little low. I will say that. I think they'll smash through that over under.
Just to say, we are doing these picks on NFLPickWatch.com, and that's where you can compete with us each week. If you missed last week, don't worry. The rankings are actually done on a percentage basis. So if you're interested in coming and picking your matchups each week for free, then the link is in the live chat right now. I will also put the link in the audio podcast as well in the description. So come and pick against us. Turn our attention to the 1 p.m. US slate this weekend, and we have first up the sale. Actually, I'll do it in the pick watch list. So next up we have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Baltimore Ravens, and the Ravens are favored by 8.5. And what do you think?
I think they should be favored by 18.5. The Raiders looked dog rough. They looked like hangover after having 30 pints on a Saturday rough.
Yikes.
I wasn't like that Raiders Chargers game was it was tough to watch, let's say. The Ravens I thought were very good against the Chiefs. They didn't deserve to lose. I don't think like they went toe to toe with them. They look really good. I think they're going to absolutely level the Raiders, and I would be surprised if they covered by double that 8.5 line that's on there.
Yeah, I am in complete agreement with you as well. So we are aligned on both picks so far. Next up is the 1-0 LA Chargers against the 0-1 Carolina Panthers. The line on this one is Chargers -6 away. What do you think?
The over-under's 39.
Yikes! With a 6-point spread as well.
The over-under is 39. You know, I feel bad. Like, I feel so sorry because I love Dave so much, and I really want the Panthers to be good for Dave. But they looked a bit rough in week 1. The thing is, they've bought in like that team's made up. They got a lot of waiver claims. There's a lot of waiver players in there. Probably a lot of players who haven't done a full off season with them. It's a team that's going to take a bit of time to gel. I was not impressed with the Chargers at all. I thought they were just as bad as what the Raiders were, and they're susceptible to dropping games like this. I think the Chargers will win but they won't cover that line of 6. This smacks of like a game where they'll hit a walk-off field goal and sneak away with a completely undeserved win or something like that. But I'm not as high on the Chargers there, but they'll sneak a win.
It's amazing how you have just described exactly what I already put in the pick watch. Chargers win, Panthers cover. It's going to be a narrow game. I mean, the thing is, the only thing with this is I don't think the Panthers are 0-17 bad. They're bad. They're really bad. But I don't think they're 0-17 bad, which means they have to win a game they're unfancied for. I'm just not going to be the mug that picks them every week to try and get that one win. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Panthers win this game.
I just feel so sorry for Bryce Young. Bryce Young is an example of a quarterback who's brought into the league under a lot of hype, thrown into a completely hopeless situation, and then everyone's like, oh my God, look how bad he is. But he's in one of the most pathetically run organizations in recent history. This is Commanders level bad, how that organization is ran. The fans are not showing up. The PR is bad. And it's like, what do you expect from him? This is the perfect example where he could have done with sitting behind some veteran quarterback who could have taken all this punishment last year, and they brought him in. But I just think that the stuff against Bryce Young is completely unjustified. The level of vitriol, obviously there should be some, but the level of vitriol against him is just way too much. I just feel so sorry for him. And through circumstances that are not his own fault, he's probably going to be one of those who's cast off. I see him taking a Baker route. I really do. They're going to cast him off and they're going to regret it.
Yeah, he's going to make a great backup for someone before taking the job a la Geno Smith. That's the sort of career route he's going to follow now. And he's going to get that second chance about 6-7 years into his career, and people are going to go, oh, he's really good. And I wasn't expecting that. And it's like, well, but you've not been watching.
No. I remember Bama, Bryce Young, and he went through a lot there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should be nicer to him.
Yeah. Right, next matchup is the 1-0 New Orleans Saints against the 1-0 Dallas Cowboys at AT&T. The Saints obviously the highest scorers from last week because they were facing the Panthers against the Cowboys team that really took care of business away from home in a matchup where they were the underdogs against the Cleveland Browns, which looks foolish now. It's a 6-point spread in favour of the Cowboys, and what do you think?
See, this is between a rock and a hard place because I despise the Cowboys, but I've also said a lot of not nice things about the Saints, which I want to come true. I want the Saints to upset them, but at the same point, that delegitimizes everything I've said about them. So, Cowboys to cover by a lot and absolutely wreck the Saints. I think, the Saints just need to be careful. They were playing the Panthers. And even a 50 burger against the Panthers ain't that impressive on the grand scale of things. So we're going to see how good they really are. I don't think they're that good. I do think the Cowboys are gonna do them over here.
Just want to shout out Grandizer when I said about atting the channel for some questions. He did give one, although we did talk about Graham Barton a bit. So I hope that we did answer your question in the show anyway, but apologies. And Brent added the channel, but not the channel name, so it didn't pop up for me. Apologies. He said, I think the Lions will pressure Baker quite a bit. How many yards does Baker Mayfield get passing and rushing? Baker escapes really well, so I reckon he'll probably get 20 yards rushing and passing-wise. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets 300 plus in this game, just because he's a good quarterback and, he has to throw the ball in this game. Cowboys, Saints, I'm with you. Cowboys are regular season warriors. Saints are going to love themselves a bit too much. I really like what Derek Carr did last week. I thought he looked like a passable starting quarterback, which he didn't for much of last year. But the Cowboys are strong on both sides of the ball, and they were super impressive against the Browns. So at AT&T, I don't think a 6-point spread is enough. I think it's a good line. I think 6 points is a really good line. If it's a 7 or 8 point win for the Cowboys, I really wouldn't be surprised, but I do think they'll just cover. We've already obviously talked about the Lions and Bucs, which is up next. The Lions are, according to this thing anyway, still 7.5 point favourites. Do you see us covering that? Because you've already picked us to win.
Yeah, now Gary's not here. Yes, we do.
You little bastard.
I do love Bucs fans. It's like there's a lot of fan bases in the NFL I hate, but every Bucs fan I've ever talked to, even over the pond, they're very nice. So I just find it hard to be rude to them.
My pick was legit. I picked a 6-point win. I still believe in a 6-point win because I just think they'll rack up points like we do. So I have the Bucs covering 7.5, but I pick a win for us.
I had 10 points in the pick watch. I had us winning by 10. So, but I feel like I do respect them a bit more. They're always going to play hard. It's hard to score on them.
You stayed true to yourself. Right, still on the 1 o'clock slate. We've got another few games to pick still. And the next one up is the Colts at the Packers. And, I mean, if it sounds like the Packers should be favourites, you're forgetting that Jordan Love is out. The Colts are 2.5 point favourites in Lambeau. What do you think?
I don't know. 2.5 point favourites for the Colts. It's tough because what did they not do very well week one? They didn't defend. They gave up a load of rushing yards against the Texans. They had a field day. It was well over 200 yards, I think they gave up on the ground. And what is Malik Willis? Malik Willis is a running quarterback who can escape the pocket, who can get a ton of yards on the ground, and you've got Josh Jacobs in there. I think Malik Willis could end up rushing for more yards than he ends up throwing, but I think the Packers win. I ain't sold on the Colts yet. Richardson looked great last week, but he's coming up against a rejuvenated Jair Alexander. I think that Green Bay defense is better than people give it credit for. I think the Packers sneak it, and they've got a point to prove now. Jordan Love's out. They're not going to go down without a fight. So I think they're going to be. The Colts don't win games like this. So I've got the Packers winning even though it hurts me to say. If I'm wrong, I don't care because Packers lose. But I don't think they will.
This is the first time where we're going to be different on the money line. I have the Colts winning the game, but I also have them covering 2.5. For me, the Packers' defense is borderline bad. Borderline bad. I'm not going to say really bad, but Jair Alexander had an awful year last year with people saying, well, but cornerback is volatile. He'll bounce back this year. Change of scheme. It will suit him. Got burned a couple of times last week. See no sign that that's turning around. And their defensive line is good. Like, they have a good trench play defensive line, but I just don't see it anywhere else in their team. Quay Walker's a headless chicken running around the field. He looks like the worst version of Jared Davis out there. Well, I say worst version because, can he stay on the field or is he going to get ejected again? I have the Colts winning by 10. So we'll see what happens. But I'm looking for the Packers to be humiliated in their own house so we don't have to. But we will. Next up is Browns at Jags. This one at the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are the favourites in this one by 3 points. What do you think?
Jags are going to annihilate them completely.
So you have them covering the spread then?
Oh, yeah. Easily got them covering the spread. Deshaun is about 2 weeks away from having arm soreness that's going to rule him out the entire season. What was his QBR the other day? 7? Or was it less?
Yeah, it was something like that.
It was single-figure QBR, and he looked so bad. Like, the Jags will win this.
I'm sure he has some muscle tension afterwards. That's all I'm saying. Maybe he should see someone.
Legally.
I mean, you can pay for consent. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jags and cover. I don't think by much, though. Like, that Browns defense is legitimately good in Trevor Lawrence. I mean, after the halftime whistle last week, the Jags looked like an awful team against the Dolphins. And the Dolphins weren't playing well. So...
No, but if Jags eliminate the mistakes, I think they are a good team. I've still got them winning the AFC South. So.
Fair. Okay. Wow, we've still got 4 more games to pick in the 1 o'clock slate. So next up is 49ers at Vikings spread every single time. And it's not loading this time, which is good. Come on, you stupid website. It's a 5-point spread in favour of San Francisco away from home. What do you think?
San Fran will win easily. And they'll cover.
Covering 5 points. Okay. This is a trap game for San Francisco.
No, it's not.
I have San Francisco winning. I have the Vikings covering 5.
I mean, if the Vikings cover 5, I'd expect us to be ranked favourites against the 49ers, even at their stadium at the end of the year.
You're not going to like what I picked then when it came to that game. I picked the Lions. Anyway, more games on the 1 o'clock slate. We have Seattle Seahawks against the New England Patriots. Seahawks are favoured by 3.5.
The over-under in this is 38.5.
Christ.
And that's not even the lowest of the week.
Yeah. It feels like the 3.5 point spread is an overreaction to the Patriots' good performance last week.
Seahawks are on the road, right?
Mm-hmm. It's at Foxborough.
I don't. Did the Seahawks look good to you?
No, they looked awful.
They didn't.
They looked
They looked.
terrible.
They looked bad to me, and they're on the road. I think this is going to be low scoring. I think this is going to be like a 17-13 game to somebody. Um, it just feels like I'd say Seahawks because we expect the Patriots to be bad, but I do like the Patriots head coach. I do want him to do well, and I think he's going to make that team play better than the sum of their parts. And I was not impressed with Seattle at all. I don't think Mike McDaniel is doing the best job out there right now. So actually give me a Patriots upset. I think the Patriots might win that game.
Ooh, spicy. I have the narrowest of narrow roads to get this one. I've got Seattle win, but Patriots cover 3.5. So I've got to have a Seattle 1, 2, or 3 point win to get both of those. But I just think it's one of those that's going to be close. And I just want to get one of the sides of that right. Next up is Jets at Titans. And the Jets are favoured away from home against the Titans by 4. What do you think?
You know that meme of two clowns fighting over a field? That feels like what this is. This is two clowns fighting. I don't like either team, although I said the Jets were going to... I'm going to pick the Jets because I kind of want this. I need that prediction to come true to not make me look too stupid, but the Titans looked bad. The Titans look really bad. The Jets were facing the best opposition they'll face all year, so you can kind of... And Aaron Rodgers, that's the first time he's played in over a year, and at his age, it takes longer for him to get back in sync and that. So I fancy the Jets to win this, but they don't cover.
I'm calling you biased for picking the Jets and going with them. Call me biased for going for mine. I thought the Titans looked really good in the first half of their game and looked absolutely terrible in the second half of their game, and they totally disappeared. But the Titans were well ahead in their matchup last week until they decided to fall apart and it was rough. But I really believe in the rebuilding job that's happened there in the free agent acquisitions. But Will Levis has to decide he's a real boy and a real quarterback. So I think the Titans are going to win this game straight up.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't feel good about it. Last 1 o'clock game is the Giants at the Commanders in the Battle of the Shit-Off in the NFC East. The Commanders are favoured at home by 1.5 points. What do you think?
Give me Lionel Richie's backup band.
No?
The Commodores. The Commanders. The Commodores.
Gotcha. Fair.
God, you don't know enough pop culture references.
No, and I've seen Lionel Richie. Yeah, I think this is maybe the easiest pick of the week. The Giants look like one of the worst teams in football last year. They could well start tanking the season now, to be honest, because it's not going to get best from here. Give me Washington, and give me Washington by at least a score. I think it will be 9, 10, 11, something in that region, 1.5. Especially with how Jaden Daniels played last week. Like, it wasn't the best passing performance, but the Bucs put a lot of pressure on him and covered quite well behind it. The Giants ain't going to do that. So, can Dexter Lawrence take over the game? Maybe. But, Jaden Daniels can run away from that. So, I just think that Washington are going to have their way with him, to be honest. Later slate, 9:05 kickoff, 4:05 Eastern Time. LA Rams at the Arizona Cardinals in the most interesting line of the week. The Arizona Cardinals are favoured by 1 at home against the Rams in a division clash. What do you think?
Cardinals win.
Who? Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. What are the Rams fielding at offensive line? The ghost of Ebenezer Scrooge, a guy from the local Walmart, and a paper bag. So
That's very harsh to a paper bag. Come on.
Exactly. They're battered and bruised, and to be honest, I think the Rams were playing up to us. I do genuinely believe the Rams were playing up towards opposite. And of course, we knocked them out the playoffs last year. Like, I believe they found another level that they'll not find in other games.
Okay, so they're playing a paper bag at offensive line. Name me one starting Arizona Cardinal defensive lineman.
A paper bag.
Okay, they're starting.
You know that beautiful video of two paper bags just getting blown around in the wind and having a little. Maybe we'll see that. We'll
Maybe
see a
we
paper
will.
bag versus. We'll see a paper bag versus.
Battle of the Tumbleweeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So their starting
so.
defensive line is actually Justin Jones, Roy Lopez, Billy Al Nichols, and Zaven Collins, who's reimagined himself as an edge rusher, apparently.
Just say those four again.
Justin Jones, edge.
Yeah.
Roy Lopez, defensive tackle. Billy Al Nichols, defensive tackle, formerly of the Jets. And Zaven Collins, who obviously used to be a linebacker. Inside linebacker.
That sounds like the cast of a B-rated Western.
Oh, man.
Doesn't it?
It does. It does.
It's like a cheesy Western. Roy Lopez is... I don't know.
Billy Al Nichols is Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
Billy Al the Kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's got some terrible soundtrack to it, which is not a Western soundtrack.
Oh, I like the name of the blooming Arizona Cardinals. We play the Cardinals next week. Billy Al the Kid is gonna be the name of the show. We got it. Give me the Rams away from home to win straight up. Which I need to save, otherwise I will totally lose all of the picks that I'm making.
Hot take, Starling Thomas is going to pick off Stafford twice, and we're going to miss him.
Twice? Why do you hate America? Right, later on in the late slate, 4:25 kickoff, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Denver Broncos. Pittsburgh on the road, favoured by 2.5, Ant.
And a 36.5 over-under.
It feels great to be a Lions fan when we're 14 points higher in that, and it's probably us in the majority.
It's like they're going to get to Iowa level soon, where they start going sub 30 and get it right. Like it's not far off. I bet on the Steelers last week. I was right on the Steelers last week. Give me the Steelers again. The Steelers are going to make it to the playoffs, and they're not going to score a single offensive touchdown. It's going to be field goals all year, and I'm here for it.
I love that prediction so much. Justin Fields gets 1,000 yards on the ground, but no offensive touchdowns at all for the Steelers.
Yeah, just like 90 field goals and no touchdown. Like that field goal kicker could be in the race for MVP, like legitimate overall MVP. Yeah. Kicker wins MVP.
Chris Boswell, isn't it? Pittsburgh, I think. I'm pretty sure. Really, like, maybe one of the more underrated kickers in the league because he's been there forever and everyone thinks he's good, but no one puts him in the top 2.
Hey, speaking of great kickers, Jake Moody, 25 points in NFL Fantasy. Thank you, my man. You were awesome.
I was facing Jake Moody and a linebacker at IDP, and I was up 33 points. And in the league that I run, kickers get a premium. And I fucking lost. 33 points ahead.
Well, Kamish, that sounds like your fault.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need to bend the rules for future. I had Breece Hall.
In fact, it wasn't even my league. It was Ryan's league, which he also has a premium for kickers on. Bastard.
I had Breece Hall, Deebo Samuel, and Jake Moody, and little did I know that Jake Moody would be my biggest point scorer that night. I ended up winning by about 60 points just because of them three. But it was Jake who did it.
What a hero Moody is. Last one in the late slate on Sunday. Last one in the late slate is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs. 5.5 points in favor of the Chiefs. And
Chiefs. Chiefs. We were having this discussion in Discord earlier. I think Joe Burrow's an average quarterback who's getting found out, and the Chiefs are too good. Chiefs will beat them quite handsomely, and people will start to see that the Bengals are fraudulent. And not only that, That is one more step to pushing Trey Hendrickson out the door in Cincinnati and into the door in Detroit. So give me Chiefs by a load. We are going to will Trey Hendrickson to Detroit.
The Bengals have continued to be a bad team on defense, and the offense has not improved to match yet. They're warming up very slowly. Obviously, some of their key pieces have either been injured or not practicing, which has not helped. The Chiefs are not exactly the best September team in the world, but they're going to win by more than 2 scores in this game. It's going to be a 34-17 sort of game, or 31-10 sort of game. It's just going to be a bit rough for the Bengals, and they'll just throw in the towel early. Have you seen that you offended an Iowa fan in the chat?
I'm sorry, Lost Oceans. Hey, I'm ready. Well, yeah, I'm a Rocco Becht fan. I love Iowa State. Sorry, not sorry. Brent, by the way, the professionals, do not call the professionals B-rated. The professionals is pure cinema. British classic. And Matt's going to say, I don't know what the professionals is.
I know who the amateurs are. That's me.
Wow. Never watched the professionals. Bet you watched The Saint or something like that, though. I mean, in fact, The Saint was good. That was Roger Moore. Wait, what? Oh, dear. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry, chat. I do apologize on behalf of my colleague here. But The Professionals is not B-rated. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you for once there, Brent. Our psychic twin bond was broken slightly.
Sunday Night Football! Obviously, the Lions started on it, and so they've just...
Texans. Screw the Bears. Texans.
6.5 points is the spread against Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. How much do I want to win this versus how much do I want to hate on the Chicago Bears? No, I'm right. Texans by 15.
This is going to be like Pinocchio getting his wish and immediately regretting it. The Bears will be like, I want to play a real team, and then get beaten out by 30 and be like, no, I want to play scrubs. I want to play fairy tale games against terrible teams like the Titans.
That's kind. Right, Monday Night Football. We're finishing off with a matchup that, honestly, I could care less about, with the Atlanta Falcons facing the Philadelphia Eagles in... Really? Like, this is a game when it came out where I thought this is going to be an exciting one. You've got Kirk Cousins with a Falcons team that's going to be firing on all cylinders. They're going to win the NFC South comfortably. They're going to go to the playoffs and be a really hot team. I, in fact, picked them to be in the NFC Championship game. So, more fool me. They're 6.5 point underdogs against a Philadelphia Eagles team who are kind of strong but also weak. And I don't really know what I mean by that, but I feel like everyone also feels that way about the Philadelphia Eagles. They're like hard exterior with a soft, mellowy interior, like your favourite chocolate snack. I don't know where I'm going with that at all. What do you think?
Falcons win.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Really? Falcons win.
Why?
Because they aren't as bad a team. Like, they were bad in week 1, but they are, again, another team who's bought a lot of high-priced acquisitions in. They're trying to buy their way to the NFC Championship game. They look like they were really trying to bet in there. But Kirk's not played football in a long time either. I expect them to start gelling, and I just think the Eagles are stupidly big, massive frauds who are susceptible to losing those games. Remember when the Bucs went there last year and absolutely walloped the hell out of them? Nobody predicted the Bucs to win that game. But the Falcons have bought a lot of talent in there, so they are going to win the odd game that people do not expect them to, and no one's expecting them to win this game. So maybe after all the hype about them, they've had their reality check. No one's going to pick them in this. I fancy them to come out fighting and beat the Eagles.
I have the Eagles winning narrowly, which means that the Falcons are going to cover 6.5. Eagles at home, Saquon Barkley's going to wreck them, but Kirk's going to keep them competitive.
Maybe.
All right, those are
Um,
your picks for the week. And anything else we need to talk about? Anything else you want to talk about?
I see Lost Ocean saying Iowa's going to beat Troy this week. Yes, they are. But that is a game where I will put the over-under at about 8 and not expect them to get there. That is two very, very defensive-minded teams with very, very good defenses and not very good offenses. That is the kind of game you show to your worst enemy when you're trying to break their very spirit inside, and it will. It will be ugly, but
Mm.
they will just win. But yeah, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. I'm a sicko, and that is gonna be tough watching even for a sicko.
Over under on safeties.
That's what I mean. There'll probably be 3 safeties. It'll be a 4-2 win. Be like a soccer game here.
I love it.
That's what it'll be. Like the 2 starting quarterbacks combined will probably throw for about 80 yards and 5 picks and something like that. So
It'll be a scorigami, but it'll be like 5-2.
soccer scorigami. That's how low it'll be.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pleasant.
No. Right, everybody, that is your lot for this week. I hope you enjoyed us breaking down the rest of the week's slate along with the Bucs preview and Gary helping us out there from the Bucs UK. As Ant was saying about Bucs fans generally, but about the Bucs UK in particular, they're a fantastic fan group which show off the best of UK fans. So we're delighted to keep up our relationship with them, and hopefully their celebrations next week go well. I'm sure you feel the same. Our next episode will be the live reaction play-by-play on Sunday. We'll see you there at about 12:45 Eastern time in the afternoon. That'll be myself and Ash, I hope. I don't think he's working. And of course, if you want to have a good laugh, then you must follow us on Twitter as well, because Ant, I'm sure, will be doing a tweet stream, although you'll probably be at work as well, I suspect.
No, I've got Sunday off.
Woohoo! All right, yeah. If you want to have a good laugh, follow Ant doing the Twitter for us, because it's a right laugh. The review show will be Monday, I believe, as it stands, and then we'll have the week 3 review for the college football podcast and a look ahead to week 4 about this time next week, maybe Wednesday. Let's see what happens. Anyway, you can follow us on Rural Lions UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the group for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans UK 1 Pride Worldwide. Our own Ryan Farden is still out in Detroit and will be for this game. So if you want to see some good picks from him, he had sideline passes last week and actually saw some very familiar faces, including meeting Mike Tirico. So if you want to have a look at that, do go and join that group. Our website, rotluk.com. Have a look at Ash's preview articles for the game ahead in the next couple of days. Just remains for me to thank my co-host, Anthony Fitzpatrick, as well, of course, as Gary Botley, our guest. Thank you to everyone on the live chat for being very active today. You've been fantastic. And for you on the audio pod too. We appreciate you very, very much. We'll see you later on this week. Good luck, everybody. Let's hope we come out of this one alive and 2-0. Let's go, Lions, one pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.